We were raised in a church that was I went to church a couple times a day, belonged to youth league, and I was like everybody else. At 16, I was kind of awkward and shy, and I was introduced to alcohol at about 16 years old. At about 18, 19, I left home and moved out on my own, and drinking got a little bit, did a little bit more of it, and got hired as a fireman up in Santa Barbara, and I was about 22, 23, and my drinking was manageable at that time and whatnot. And basically didn't go to church anymore. I went to church on Easter, Christmas Day, Christmas Eve, like everybody else, the twice a year kind of a thing. And then at about 30 years old, somewhere in that area, after I'd been drinking from 16, I got promoted, and I got sent to a firehouse where there was a captain that was a born-again Christian. There was a prime station, but I got sent there, and looking back on it, it was God's plan for me, because I shouldn't have gotten that station at that time. And he could see the struggles that I was having with alcohol. And although it never really affected my work per se, it was starting to affect my personal life at home with my marriage. I had one child at the time, and he was real young, and was starting to affect my work. Probably he could see that. He asked me if I used to be a Christian, and I said yeah, and then he said, well, why don't you try reading the Bible? He didn't hit me with anything else other than that. Why don't you just study a little bit? And so I said yeah, so I did, because I was looking for a way. I was seeking help. We were driving to the store in our fire truck, and he said, how you doing? I go, it's not working very well. And he goes, well, have you ever accepted Christ as your personal Savior? And I go, well, what's that? And he goes, explained to me what that was. And I said, no. He goes, well, would you like to? Kind of coming across the room, kind of a thing. And I said, well, yeah, because I was seeking, and I was looking for help, And so he reached over and put his hands on me, and we prayed, and I accepted Christ as my Savior. And the next day I started reading the Bible, and it made complete sense to me. Ralph said, we need to pray for you. And I go, well, we did. He goes, this is like a week later or whatever. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, we need to pray for the alcoholism to leave you. We need to pray over you for healing. And I said, whatever it takes. And I'll never forget this. We were in this firehouse, and he had this friend, John, came over. And I've only met John a couple of times. And John came over, and I sat in a chair in the middle of the kitchen, and there was a big bay window that looked out into where the fire trucks were, and there was a fireman out there looking at us, and had these, I was staring at him, and these two guys laid hands on me, and they started praying for my healing. And at that moment, I felt a healing. I felt a physical change and an emotional, spiritual change in my body at that point. And from that point forward, I never had another drink. I went to an AA meeting, and there was a guy there. I don't know if you remember Victor Mature, but this guy looked like Victor Mature. He had dark hair, just a handsome guy, and he was a deep sea diver. He used to go down really deep. And he was telling his story. If you've never been to AA, they tell stories about how the program helped him, whatever. And he was telling the story how he used to practice suicide, and he hated himself sober, and he hated his life being drunk. So he used to put a shotgun up to under his chin and pull the trigger, dry pulls. And I'm listening to this guy's story, and then he said, until one day I found Christ. And he goes, and that filled the void in my life that the alcohol had been trying to. And right there I recognized that that's what I needed, and that's where I needed to go, and that's what had already happened to me. And so that was kind of a pivotal turning point in my life, that at that point I found that all of us have a hole in our soul somewhere, and Christ is what fills it.